Once Doug's ready there, he's Doug fixing his lights or he's flexing his muscles there, or what's he doing there?
Doug after dark.
Wow.
I'm in my son's room and it's not very well lit at all.
I know the lighting was fine until you get up.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is exciting. Let's get going. Welcome to another episode of the Sylvester Stallone podcast, part of the Last of the Action Heroes podcast network. I'm your host, Ryan, and of course, with me as always, we're talking 95%. We've done 35 episodes of the show. The goal is always to get the three of us on. We've got Doug from Rocky Minute and Craig from Slycast. How you both doing?
Doing good. Ready to talk some Oscar today, boys.
I'm doing good as well. I am not ready to talk some Oscar. I kicked and screamed about this one.
You did. This is the most, just that people don't know this, but of course, the three of us, we have a chat group on Facebook that we correlate through and say hi to or share things with. And regarding this episode with Craig, it's been, anytime it's brought up, anytime it's scheduled, you can just sense I don't know how to word it, but it's just text, but he's just like, yeah, sure. Okay. It's so downtrodden. Craig, is there a reason why you'd be so downtrodden about talking about your thoughts and feelings of the film?
I don't know. It's funny. I know when we did Rhinestone in the chat there, our friend John Rivoli said that this was Sly's best comedy. Mm-hmm. I have to agree to disagree with John. This movie is just a sluggish bore, and the thought of podcasting about it for 90 minutes is just not exciting to me.
Doug?
I'll say one thing in preparation to our analysis. Sly benefits most from the ensemble around him. And these guys, his co-stars, elevated even Sly's comedic abilities in this. I didn't think it was bad. I don't think it's a bad, terrible movie.
Okay.
It's not great by any stretch, but I'd watch it again.
The bar's so low at this point with Sly movies for us, Doug.
Yeah.
Seriously.
If you're using that measuring stick, I guess there's been fewer diamonds in the rough than more rough. But
yeah. Now, this was a first watch for you, Doug?
Yeah, I wouldn't say first watch. I saw it many years ago on HBO or something. I haven't seen it since.
Okay.
So yeah, it's pretty fresh for me.
Okay, so yeah, that's usually our first question, of course, is when did you first see it? I'm like you, Doug. This came out in 1991, April 26th, my mother's birthday, actually. April 26th, 1991. I would have been 15 and a half at the time of this release, and I did see this in the theaters. I would have gone at that time. Definitely was a big theater goer at the age of 15. Loved going to the movies, and Stallone, of course, being my, icon hero and huge fan of Stallone. I was a big fan of mafia movies and mob movies, and I'm a big fan of comedy. So all these things lined up for me as a 15-year-old. You can imagine my excitement. This is a mafia film. It had a comedy spin, and being a fan of both comedy and mafia, what could go wrong? What? I did not see this.
I did not see this in theaters, Ryan.
Oh, wow. I thought you would.
I may have said it on the Slycast episode when my memory was closer to the time the movie came out by 5 years. But no, I probably saw this, like Doug said, sometime on home video in the 90s. And then, of course, I watched it again for Slycast, and then I watched it again for this show, and then I will probably never watch it again.
Life is getting shorter. The three of us, I always forget our ages, but I'm 48 in October. And as time continues forward, I'm like you, Craig. It's just, there's only so much time we have left to consume entertainment or anything, really. And this may be the last time I ever watched the film. This actually just might, for this show, and it was the first time I saw the film, I dare say, in its entirety through a sit-down watch through, probably since I saw it in the theater. So that could be very telling that there's a reason why I never bought it on VHS. I never saw it after it on HBO or whatever movie channel was a paid cable channel back in the day. Never bought it on DVD. So as it 1 year turns into decade, turns into 3 decades, I don't think I just ever revisited this film until we prepared for the show. So that could be telling for all of us here. Okay, so let me give Doug. Do you have a breakdown of the film? I have a write-up, Doug, if you don't.
I don't, but I thought it was, I was going to try to do it off the top of my head, but it's
I want to hear this.
No, I can't. It's too involved. The plot is way too convoluted.
I don't have a plot per se, beat for beat, other than what we could just obviously. I hate to use
it's a Three's Company episode, basically.
Yeah,
it's okay. More than that, Craig. I'm glad you brought that up because that's very true. We'll get to that, but before we get to the what it compares to, Oscar, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a 1991 American comedy, intended comedy film directed by John Landis. We'll talk about him, of course, as well. It takes inspiration from the Claude Monet stage play, but it's also a remake of the 1967 French film of the same name. So I guess it was a stage and film. But the twist here is that it's Depression era New York instead of whatever French location they use for the play in the movie. Sylvester Stallone, known for his action-packed roles, ventures again into comedy. He just did, of course, at this time, he did Rhinestone in 84. What else did he do? He's Tango and Cash had some comedy bits in 89.
Stop Or My Mom Will Shoot was after this?
I believe so, yes. He got confidence with his comedy and did a little bit more. So he definitely did comedy with Rhinestone, and Tango and Cash is definitely an action kind of buddy comedy, like a Lethal Weapon vein comedy, but not in the sense of what we're dealing with here. But anyways, he plays a guy named Angelo Snaps, Provolone, a mob boss who makes a heartfelt promise to his dying father to leave the world of crime and become an honest businessman. And joining Stallone are the actors Marissa Tomei, Ornella Muti, Tim Curry, and Chaz. How do you say his last name, Craig?
Palminteri.
Okay.
Yeah.
The film's score was composed by Elmer Bernstein. Now, director John Landis took inspiration from classic Hollywood comedies, particularly the screwball genre that was big at this time. He trying to add a charming vintage to the movie. The movie hit theaters in the United States. Of course, I said this already. April 26, 1991, receiving mixed reviews from.
I like the fact that you said trying. One thing I want to just say out up front, Ryan and Doug, is the fact that this was based on a stage play and then a film that was made from that stage play is part of the problem with this movie for me, because there are times where you adapt stage plays and you make certain changes for the theatrical experience. A good example, not a great movie, probably a bad movie by most people's indication, Rock of Ages. Now, I've seen the Rock of Ages stage play, and it's a really fun live stage experience. But for the movie, they knew there were certain characters that just weren't going to work. The two German guys out the door. And the movie's better for it. Again, a lot of people don't like that movie. It is a fun film. Listen,
look, if we're talking about Rock of Ages, we can talk about that for a while. It's a fun film. I love Tom Cruise's portrayal of some sort of cross between Axl Rose and Bon
Jovi,
Axl Rose, and Robert Plant type persona.
Yeah.
It's all there. Yeah, he did a great job. I love the music. And,
have you seen the stage play?
No, I haven't seen the stage play, but I thought the film was fun. It's schlocky fun, but it's fun. It's like Hairspray or anything like that.
There was a whole plot point and a whole set of characters that they just took out because they knew it would be corny as fuck for the movie. And that's one of the problems with this is they adhered. It almost looks like they just used the play because it's almost an hour and 50 minutes long, which for a screwball comedy, an hour 40 is a lot more appropriate. And I just think there's some, for me, as much as I love the performances and the character and the actors, I don't think you needed the two Taylors. They didn't do anything to advance the plot.
They might have been the best part of the movie, though.
And that said, when people that have no bearing on the plot are the two best parts of the movie, maybe it's time to take a look at the script and say, what's going on here?
The threat of them being hitmen was part of the plot.
That was the Three's Company moment that Craig was talking about, is that you have that classic sitcom misunderstanding of.
But there's multiple ones in this movie, even going back to who his daughter wants to marry.
Yeah.
Or who his accountant wants to marry. The whole movie is set up on misunderstandings, which is that's a funny setup.
Right away, watching through the movie, I got increasingly Trading Places, Coming to America vibes throughout the entire movie.
John Landis directed both of
them. He did. Yeah. And I didn't even realize that myself when I was getting those vibes.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Yeah.
It's director's, what do you call it? Director's
touch. He definitely has a style, but those are classics. So why does something like Trading Places work and this doesn't?
Script.
Yep.
Cast. This is a horrible script. I want to go back to you, Craig, a little bit of regarding the sitcom Three's Company with the misunderstandings. What it reminded me even more of one of my favorite top 3 sitcoms of all time, maybe the top 2, Frasier. This is an hour and 50-minute episode of Frasier. The writers of Frasier could have done this in 20 minutes. It would have been a more concise, funny plot. If they get this, the idea of somebody marrying the wrong daughter, whatever, the father mix up. Think of all those. I don't know if you guys ever watched Frasier, when they have a dinner party that goes awry or whatever. And there's one episode where Niles was throwing a dinner party to his apartment. There was a mix up with the menu and stuff and all these things. And there was a big bird involved. All these crazy antics in 22 minutes, and you're laughing the whole time through. 1 hour and 50 minutes of script, and I think I chuckled. I think I might have smirked, or been like, "Huh." Once. That's one laugh, one amused moment. It is one of the. There's something oddly dull about this film. It feels frantic. Okay, it's designed to look frantic, and we're supposed to sound
frantic with the music. Yeah,
exactly. We have Stallone's character Snaps. I guess he was nicknamed Snaps because he snaps his fingers. And
when he gives orders, give me breakfast, give me my grapefruit.
But he doesn't always talk. He snaps without speaking too. That's part of the idea, is that people understand his snaps and some sort of second or third language, that his snaps will indicate the order without him actually verbalizing what he's indicating that needs to get done. And people will jump to his snaps. Okay, before we get to we can put a bow tie on the Snaps. Ridiculous nickname. It's not funny. It's overplayed. And people that snap at me, I'll break your thumbs, man. Don't you snap at me. And the behavior of his snapping, we're supposed to be scared of that. I know he was a big mob boss, and that's the idea. He's a Godfather-esque type mob boss, but he doesn't show any kind of scariness or any reason why I should be intimidated by this character throughout the film. Just because you've gone quote unquote clean or legit, there is no. Imagine The Sopranos. Imagine the plot line in The Sopranos. I believe I haven't seen it in a while. There may have been one throughout their 5 seasons or whatever, that James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano, that he was trying to go straight, and there was times that Tony was actually funny and he would be comedic. You would laugh. But just as much as you would laugh at Tony or find him funny as a viewer, then you were terrified of him as well. That's good writing. That's good character development. But
we're also talking about one of the greatest TV performances of all time.
I know, but what I'm getting at is you have a character, the mafia guy.
Yeah, you're genuinely afraid, but he's also able to be funny.
Yes, yeah. And Stallone's character was neither fearsome nor funny. Doug?
No, I don't. But I don't think that's. Yeah, he's a mob boss in the movie, but it's supposed to be a slapsticky role.
So you thought it succeeded with the humor? Defend the film. Maybe you're the defender. Sure.
All right. I will try to defend the film. All right. Yeah, I don't think he's supposed. You're not supposed to look at this as a high drama, Goodfellas style drama. But Sly is. His character is a mob boss. Everything goes wrong. It's one of those classic tales of Murphy's Law in this movie. But he's not supposed to be. He's supposed to be the subject of all the humor. The idiots that work for him, he's the one that's got to clean up their mess. Or he tries to pull out a gun, but because he's not supposed to have a gun anymore, he pulls out a turkey. It's dumb, stupid slapstick shit that makes.
Oh, there was that one scene, right, Doug, where he says, "Give me the gun." Then he's, "Give me your backup gun."
Yeah.
And
Chaz Palminteri. He's unloading all his pockets, and it keeps going and going. It's that rule of comedy that it stopped being funny, and he kept pulling out more and more ridiculous weapons, and it became funny again.
Oh, wow. Okay, so maybe I missed that, because I'm not even joking. I'm not even trying to be funny. But when we got to that scene when he pulled out the third weapon, I hit skip on my player, because once I got the joke, once I knew where this was going, I went skip. Wow, this scene is quite long, and I don't know why that would be. The desk is piling up, and the only thing he didn't bring out was a bazooka. It was that kind of, but which is weird, because that would have worked had it been part of a Naked Gun film, but this movie wasn't Naked Gun humor. That scene would have fit Naked Gun, yes, or that kind of parody, Loaded Weapon or Naked Gun, that kind of humor perfect. That kind of scene would be almost a throwaway scene in a lot of scenes of Naked Gun humor. Okay,
but the problem, feel like this was that kind of movie.
No, that's what I'm getting. This is a Frasier-like episode where everything else was just dialogue, spitfire dialogue. We're to go in this room, have this conversation with this character. This information is given. Now we have new information as a character and as a viewer. Now we're going to go into this room with these characters with their information. They're sharing information. They're sharing information. We're crossing rooms, going through the house, up, down, downstairs, upstairs, downstairs. And then every now and then we get the exterior shot of the cops looking into the chaos, trying to figure out what's going on with their purview of the chaos of information flowing back and forth between these characters. And the information that's given it's never funny. It's always just a misunderstanding. Then they catch up to each other with the plot a little bit, and then it gets lost again, and then they get caught up again, and then everyone lives happily ever after at the end. And there's just too much going on.
And Oscar gets his ass kicked. They kick his ass, right? They carry him out of the church.
Do you want to mention who Oscar is as a character and who played him? This is actually one of the more interesting parts of the film, believe it or not. Do you know who played Oscar in the film? Good. Can I share something interesting? Okay, now because before people turn off the episode, I have something very interesting, very deep dive here. Okay, the actor who plays Oscar, his name is Jim Mulholland. So he wrote the film from the screenplay. Okay, he's actually not only did he write the film, but he's kind of a legit comedy writer in the industry. He wrote for Johnny.
Did he write
Carson.
for Jay Leno?
He wrote for Johnny.
He wrote for Johnny Carson. Oh, good for him.
Yes. And not only did he write for Johnny, so Johnny was at now I'm going to show this to you guys. If you have 2 minutes, I might edit it for the audio episode release, but it's a 2-minute clip, but you guys would appreciate it. So it's Don Rickles at a Johnny Carson roast, and Don Rickles is doing his roast portion, and Jim Mulholland, the writer of Oscar and the guy who played Oscar in the film at the very end of the film, who gets carried out of the chapel, and that is his only film credit ever. Okay. He happens to be at this Don. So he's a writer for Johnny. So he's in the audience at the Johnny Carson roast, and he gets roasted by Don Rickles in the process. So there you go. Yeah. How about that for a find? So here, I'll show it to you right now.
I don't know who you are, kid in the front, but you're getting on my nerves. I saw a little kid with a drip-dry shirt with no stay in the collar. What's your name, kid? Take your time. What's your name? Wrong! What's your last name, Jim? You better answer me or the general will wipe you out. What's your last name, Jim? Take your time. Look on your underwear. Maybe it's stenciled. What's your last name, Jim? What? Jim Mulholland? I'm in the business 20 years. I don't have a joke for a dumbbell that's named Mulholland. What are you, a road? Hope you make a left and go right into yourself. Who said to me in his beautiful country estate, notice how the hunting dogs bite your wife. He's the type that hangs around a health club and wants to pull off your towel. Is this too fast for you, Mulholland? Why did I put one dumbbell right in the front? I'm rolling, and this kid's going, pull off the towel.
All right. So there's
my goodness. I was muted because my laughter would have probably ruined the playback. Man, absolute legend.
Don Rickles was the best. Yeah, I love it. And I figured you guys would appreciate that humor. I know you guys are a fan of those days, the Johnny Carson days, and Don Rickles roasting. Boy, he was great. But what a find. Not me, but I lucked out by searching about this actor, writer, and it just so happened on YouTube that somebody found this clip. I don't know who or why they made this clip, but the whole clip is Don Rickles discovers John Mulholland. But this guy wrote. So talk about that. Imagine being roasted by Don Rickles like that. What an honor to be on.
Yeah, maybe Jim uploaded it.
He has, or John, you mean? John Mulholland?
Yeah, is he dead?
Actually no, I don't think he is. Actually, he was a young writer with Johnny. Yeah, he's still active according to his Wikipedia.
Yeah.
He's still alive.
Really young in the movie. So you wanted to explain who he was. So Oscar, the title character of the movie, is Stallone's daughter's boyfriend who's off to war.
Correct. That's right. That's it. And he shows up at the very end of the film to say, "No, I don't want Marissa Tomei's character to get married." Because they're like, enough, you're not messing this up anymore. We've gotten to this point. They carry him away and the movie ends. That's how I took it, right?
Final punchline.
Do we want to talk about Marissa Tomei in this film?
She goes for it. She overacts, but the thing...
That's the way it was written.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment.
She almost seems like one of the only people that got it, Doug.
Yeah, I was gonna say she was the highlight. She was the highlight.
Mm-hmm. If you picked her up and dropped her in black and white into a movie from the 40s, you wouldn't blink an eye that she's out of place.
She's got that Rita Hayworth cadence, and
she was 27 in that film.
Oh, I thought she was younger.
No, 26, maybe 26 during the filming of it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I know people accuse Stallone of overacting, and he certainly does in this, but everybody does. And she's the one that pops into my mind. Nobody can accuse Stallone of really overdoing it and not bring Marissa Tomei into the conversation either. But
the thing is, Marissa Tomei did her homework. She was probably
she understood
one of
the
the few
assignment.
that actually knew the assignment.
Yeah. And
went home and probably watched the 6 movies that John Landis suggested watching or whatever. Kurtwood Smith pulls it off, but he's a much lesser character. And Kurtwood Smith is an absolute amazing actor.
I don't think
go from the dad on that 70s show to Clarence Boddicker and RoboCop. Not many people can do that.
Yeah, well, he goes for it too.
Everyone did fine. Actually, that was one. Not to take. I hate reading people's critics, like the professional critics, because I don't like to be biased when we do our own reviews of the film. But one of the bylines I saw with the mixed reviews is that the cast isn't the issue, and that's not the problem. The movie. Here's the thing. If you were to, I don't know how to say this, because if you were just to look at the movie visually, the movie looks great. It's a great looking movie. It is a stage film. Now, there's a lot of films that are successful that don't need more than 1 or 2 interior exterior shots. Oscar is such a film, and I'd forgotten this. So when I saw this for the first time after 30 years, I'd forgotten that this all takes place in one house. Essentially, the whole film takes place. I'd forgotten that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm an old enough person at my age watching films. I can watch something on one stage. I don't mind that. There's just something. It's almost. They almost did the impossible with this, with the cast, with already having a play in place. I wonder, was the original play successful? Was it funny? Was it considered a French classic? Because if you already have a formula that works, why isn't it that it didn't work in an English format? It was lost in translation. That's what I'm confused about, because you have people who can act. You have people that showed up. Nobody dialed it in. I don't mind the corniness of the characters. I do not mind that at all. They were trying to be like Naked Gun type characters. Marissa Tomei was a great example of somebody who, through no fault of her own, the script wasn't great, and the way she acted as that throwing a tantrum on the bed, and I just loved the way she was. I thought she was definitely the highlight, and she was. I've forgotten how gorgeous she is. She was just a stunner of a young lady. Anyway, so yeah, and that was one of her first films too. This is almost introducing Marissa Tomei. If you didn't know that, this was her first biggest role ever. She definitely got a career from this, regardless. Okay, before we get to more stuff from the plot, I know, Craig, you probably know more than anyone maybe about John Landis. Do you want to talk about John Landis? And the other question I have for you is, did this movie wreck his career?
Did this movie wreck his career?
My wife's using a blender.
Oh, sure, no worries.
Hopefully she's done in a minute. So I don't know if you want to just riff for.
Okay, let me while you're collecting your thoughts on John Landis, I'll just say, of course, we all know the name, but I even went to Wikipedia just to double check. Oh, he did that film. So here's some of the big ones he did. Of course, he did the Kentucky Fried Movie. I was considered maybe one of his bigger first-time comedy hits. Animal House. Now, I mentioned on one of her Facebook posts with Katie, she does her own podcast called the Retro Made Podcast. She also co-hosts with me on the Rocky Podcast. She's fantastic. She's great. And she did a post about Animal House, and I made a mention in which I got raked over the coals for, especially by Craig, of course, where I said I hadn't seen Animal House. It came out when I was.
Wasn't that Revenge of the Nerds?
I thought it was Animal House.
No, it was Revenge of the Nerds because I kept calling you a nerd.
That's right. You did.
Sorry to ruin your bit, Ryan, but
yes,
no,
nerds.
It's funny. It doesn't ruin my bit per se because I feel if I've seen one or the other, it's been once and that's it, and that was decades ago. So I haven't seen Animal House or Nerds in 30 to 35 years. Okay, so Landis, he directed Animal House, big name, a big movie. It's almost like I know more about the film as a film than know the film, if that makes sense. Blues Brothers, of course. American Werewolf in London. These are huge. Coming soon, I haven't heard about. Trading Place is huge. Twilight Zone, the movie. He did a segment in that one as well. Spies Like Us.
He killed some people on that.
That's the one.
That's him, eh?
Yeah, he killed Dick Morrow, Jennifer Jason Leigh's father, and two...
Was it Jennifer Jason Leigh's father?
Yeah. And then also two young, innocent Vietnamese children, yeah. I know he was found not liable in a court of law, but...
That's right.
I've also personally seen John Landis be rude to people. I was at a convention probably a dozen years ago at this point with Karen Allen was in the audience, not participating in the panel, but just in the audience watching, and Niedermeyer from Animal House, the guy from the Twisted Sister videos. They were together. Now, I don't know if they were together, but they were sitting together. Mm-hmm. But I saw John Landis berate a poor audiovisual guy. The projector wasn't working or something, so they called him in, and instead of John Landis being a professional and saying, hey, we have some difficulties, let me riff for a couple minutes, he decided to berate some poor guy that was probably making $9 an hour and embarrass him in front of 200 people. Just absolute asshole behavior. I'm really not a fan of the guy as a person, but yeah, he's made some absolute classics, but there was a point where he lost it. He made Beverly Hills Cop 3. Before we get to that, I just want to finish the films you're talking about. So, yeah, despite him being a murderer, he went on to make, let's be honest, Spies Like Us. I saw that in the theaters. I loved that movie as a kid. Three Amigos, I loved. Coming to America, of course. And then, so Coming to America was 88. And then The Return 3 years later, he then returned with Oscar. And other than maybe the box office draw to some degree of a Beverly Hills Cop, which was part 3 in 94, he never really did anything again. He did his own sequel to Blues Brothers 2000. Did you see that one, either one of you?
Mm-mm.
No Belushi. There's no reason to watch it.
John Goodman. No thanks.
Yeah. I like John Goodman. I like Dan Aykroyd, but
John
Blues Brothers works because of John Belushi.
Yeah.
I don't want to discount whatever talent John Landis may or may not have, but if you look at that filmography, look at the people involved behind the scenes. Animal House was written by the pinnacle writers at the Lampoon at the time. Mm-hmm. Trading Places, again, look at the pedigree behind it. He was really lucky to be involved with some films that are just absolutely stellar movies of their time and in their genres. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's the sole ingredient for that.
Want to hear something ironic here, guys? John Landis was an executive producer of a film in 2012, an American comedy drama horror film. He was executive producer of this film. The title was Some Guy Who Kills People.
It wasn't an autobiography?
No, it wasn't an autobiography.
There was a film in the mid 80s called Into the Night, Jeff Goldblum. And that was an act of solidarity by all of Hollywood's best directors at the time that all came together to show solidarity for John Landis, and they all but they all had little bit parts in the movie.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
Neither have I.
Cronenberg was in it.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking again at the Wikipedia because I saw. Yeah, so cameo appearances here. Mm-hmm. One's names Jonathan Demme, a lot of big names back in the Lawrence Kasdan. The other huge names in the industry that we obviously enough to have their own Wikipedia page, but they're older time names. But the big cast: Dan Aykroyd, David Bowie. Oh, I see. Yeah, David Cronenberg. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
But that was them coming together after the after the Twilight Zone debacle.
There was a whole trial. It was found not liable or whatever.
His biggest crime was violating labor laws, right? He didn't murder those people in the sense where he spun the helicopter blade to cut their heads off.
No, but I also think that a direct result of that incident, a lot of things were changed on how film sets were approached. I mean,
right.
It's my understanding, and I haven't read the books on this, and I haven't read the court transcripts, but I probably watched the True Hollywood Story on it. Mm-hmm. But from what I understand, Landis just wanted it to look bigger.
Right.
So that involved getting helicopters closer to actors that probably shouldn't have been in proximity. But then it gets into the point where there's professionals that say, hey, we're at a point where it's no longer safe.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately why Landis was not found legally responsible for it. But
there's a Faces of Death style video, a really far off shot from the helicopter collapsing. It's absolutely tragic. I think about people that have died on movie sets before, and there's a lot of them. Brandon Lee, we all know, but Dar Robinson was doing a stupid motorcycle stunt that he died after the stunt. He was just slowly riding the motorcycle. One of the most legendary.
Who was that? Who was
Dar
that?
Robinson. He played Bunny Eyes in the Burt Reynolds movie Stick. He is just, if you're looking at stuntmen from the 70s and early 80s, Dar Robinson is an absolute legend. You put him up there against Vic Armstrong, and he invented the technology of the
he went off a cliff.
Yeah.
He went off a cliff. Sorry, he rode his stunt motorcycle past the breaking point.
Yeah,
of a turn,
it was just a freak accident. If you look at the movies this guy did and some of the stunts, he did a sick high fall. You've watched the Burt Reynolds movie Stick before, right?
No.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Spoiler,
he does a great high fall. He actually acts in that movie as well. No, but what I was saying is, it's just hard about that occasionally. These people, Vic Morrow woke up that morning and went to work.
Right.
And he didn't come home that night. There's very few jobs where you're not going to come home at the end of the day. And those two little kids, their parents were, hey, this is cool. Our kids are going to be extras in a movie. Mm-hmm. And their kids didn't come home that night. And those kids didn't have a life.
They became extras.
Yeah. It's a real bummer.
They didn't even have a part in the final cut either.
I don't think we should say parts and cuts with the
Yeah. No, I don't think any of that footage.
No.
I don't know.
The Vic Morrow skit is in the movie, but it's the whole Vietnamese, the helicopter part isn't in there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's I love that sidebar stuff because we've said a lot about the film, but so the way we feel about the film and going through the plot.
I did want to get. You're going to do a plot rundown at this point, but I do want to talk about some more genuinely funny movie moments.
Please,
and I don't think it completely delivered, but the very beginning of the movie, after we get through that 6-minute opera piece, which just did not work for me, the claymation, the California Raisin guy.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually have the film, but anything you want to speak to, we have time.
No, I was going to say that you get his parents, you get Kurt Russell and Yvonne DiCarlo, and Kirk Douglas.
I was going to say, wow, Kurt Russell, the makeup job there.
Yeah, no, Kirk Douglas. That's it. It tries to, or it attempts to set the tone for the movie, and I don't think it's executed 100%, but. You can see what they're going for, especially when he promises the dad he'll give up crime, and then everybody thinks the dad's dead. And then he wakes up one last time and he punches Stallone.
He slaps the shit out of him. And you didn't laugh at any of this?
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that works for me. And you guys know I love stupid shit, and this is a scene full of stupid shit.
This one worked. Yes.
Okay, let's watch a little bit of it, and I'll tell you why, Doug. It didn't make me laugh. It may have made me. I'll say now. It may have made me chuckle in the theaters, but the problem was I knew that scene from the trailers even back when I was a teenager, so I knew that scene was coming, so I didn't laugh again. That's why I never like to watch comedy trailers for that reason. I don't want to see any funny parts before the movie. I actually don't watch trailers in general because I don't want to be spoiled by anything. That being said, I knew that scene, and this is the only scene that I remembered from the film. So when they went into the one piece or the one set piece film after this sequence, I'd forgotten that. But this is the only part that stuck with me after 30 years. For better or for worse, I remembered this whole sequence of him. But let's just watch a little bit of it right now since I have it ready.
I'll go straight. I promise.
So now his dad falls back and we think he's going to die.
Don Amici as the priest.
That's right.
That's so you won't forget.
And look at that. Look at the camera. Breaking the fourth wall.
He does it a few times.
2 or 3. You're absolutely right, Doug. He does it 2 or 3 times for the film where he looks at the camera, looks at the audience. That ruins it for me. Don't do that. Don't look at the camera. I don't like that. Or here's the balancing act. This sequence is we have a Naked Gun film. That's where I thought I was going. Him pretending that he's dead. Slaps Snaps in the face. Snaps looks at the camera with the other, like, I can't believe I just got slapped by him. I didn't see that coming. All that. But then when we get to the film, it just turns into an overdrawn 22-minute sitcom episode of misunderstandings, miscommunication, misidentification of characters, sharing information. It's not the complete story. But we're supposed to feel like we're supposed to laugh at each sequence. And I found myself slightly stressed and or annoyed. I wanted everyone just to get together in the room and talk it out, and it was never happening. And it's a device, again, that works in a 20-minute sitcom, but not an hour and 45 minutes. That's the problem, that the idea isn't not sound. It's just dragged out for film. But before we get into more film talk, I have another clip here I want to show you guys. This clip will just speak for itself.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sylvester Stallone.
As you can see in Oscar, Kirk played my father, and the scene was supposed to be where he's laying in bed and actually just leans over and gives me a movie slap. He's laying there with his eyes closed, and they're closed very tight, and he's swinging and he's missing. So I said, Kirk, look, you were in that great film Champion, and ever since I did Rocky, you've been dying to take a shot at me. So I said, I'll tell you what, do it. No problem, go for it, I can take it. Let me have your best. Kirk, I was joking. Next thing, forehand, backhand, left, and the director, John Landon, says, that's beautiful. Let's do another take. I said, what, are you crazy? I said, I'm getting brain damage here. He said, go on, be a sport. Anyway, we did it, and I learned the hard way, never spar with Spartacus. Of all the heroes I saw on the screen growing up, none of them had a greater impact than you. And I have to say that's probably one of the major contributing factors to me ever wanting to go into films. And thank you. And Michael, wherever you are, don't mess with your father. Ciao.
Okay, a couple things here. What I love about Sly is I don't know if I believe anything he says. The more isn't that weird? I see you nodding your head in agreement. Is he just a storyteller? And I don't. It's not harming anyone. It's not hurting anybody. There's no crime being committed. But I feel like everything's a story. Everything is so whimsical and so. Do you guys catch that?
Yeah, and you know what? We were speaking of Revenge of the Nerds earlier, and you probably wouldn't know the reference, but the guy who played Booger, Curtis Armstrong.
Right. Yeah, I remember.
He went on to do Moonlighting with Bruce Willis.
Right.
I read his autobiography recently, and he talked about some interactions with Bruce Willis. He said he was a nice guy. He was always nice to him. But he said every conversation he had with Bruce Willis was a rehearsal for something he would go on to say in a public setting. Oh. So genuine moments he thought he had with Bruce, he'd watch a press conference the next day, and Bruce would say verbatim what he had said to Curtis. And that's when Curtis realized that Bruce was always performing. And Sly's probably very similar in his public presentation.
Very interesting. And I totally agree. I don't know if it's an actor, celebrity thing, but I watched the Family Stallone reality show, and I'm going to watch season 2. I watched season 1. I'm going to watch season 2, but it's the same thing. Sly has this, I think side note, his daughters and his wife were the most real, closest to maybe who they are. That's just who Sly is. It's not that he's lying in the sense. That's just who he is. He is a storyteller. He tells stories, and everything is a story. It's not the truth, or it might be basic. He might have said to Kirk Douglas, hey, you know what? Just don't be afraid. You can hit me. You can. And then he took some liberty with it, but it spins a better tale the way he told it. No, don't mess with Spartacus. When you were the champion, and ever since you saw me in Rocky, you've always wanted to beat me up. What? Why would Kirk?
Or ever since you left the set of First Blood, you wanted to slap me.
Yeah, I was going to say you beat me to it. I was going to give you some trivia. When was the last film they worked in together that didn't work out? Yeah, Kirk Douglas. Anyone listening, he tried out for. Right? Yeah, he was going to play Carl Troutman, but he wanted to change the script so badly.
Didn't they actually film for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think so. They got some film with him, but the problem was he wanted to become Rambo by the end of the film.
Was he the one that wanted the shot in the rearview mirror of him tilting the rearview mirror to his own face or something.
He also wanted to kill Rambo at the end. That was the major,
which was in the book and understandable if you want to stick closely to the.
It's true. It was Trautman. It was Trautman that killed Rambo, but he wanted to become or something like that.
He wanted the hero's moment at the end of the film. He puts Rambo down, and then he drives off, and the last shot is him in the car tilting the rearview mirror down to show his own face or something like that. And they were like, "No, it's ridiculous."
That's hilarious.
Kirk is great though. I actually just watched a Kirk Douglas movie from the late 70s last night. That a Brian De Palma movie called The Fury.
And I have yet to see that.
I have never watched it before. I've been very selective in watching Brian De Palma movies because everyone I watch, I absolutely love. So it's just spreading
it out.
Yeah, but man,
I love going back to those old movies now. I've been doing that a lot lately.
Yeah, but Kirk
I watched Heaven's Gate just recently. Sorry.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, first time. I've never seen it.
And that's a movie that had a lot of baggage with it. So you probably went in with these expectations. Oh, wow, this is a movie that almost bankrupted a studio. It ended a director's career. And then you were probably, that's not that bad.
No, I know. It's weird. It's weird when you look back at these films. Yeah, Kirk, I forgot. He just died recently. He lived to 103.
You know what? When I was watching The Fury last night, I cannot tell you if Kirk is still alive or not. And I was so into the movie, I wasn't going to stop it to get out my phone.
2020.
And, like,
he died in 20. Okay. Just 3 years ago. Lived to 103. Can you imagine? 103 years on this planet. Good for him. We got some good comments here from Alistair, who's in our chat. He said here regarding the stories, he goes, the story always changes, which suggests it's all exaggerated, which is true. He's done it with the Rocky script story. He's done it with a lot of different stories. It's always changing. He changes his own amounts, that sort of thing that he was offered for money. Alistair also said that regarding John Landis, he says, if Oscar didn't sink John Landis' career, then Beverly Hills Cop 3 might have. And lastly, he said that if Oscar does Sly adapt that fast talking technique that he previously used in Tango and Cash? Yeah, he probably carried it over, the same type of quip.
You know what kind of makes me think of, because everybody's first introduction to Sly was Rocky. So even in interviews after Rocky and his performances that are different to Rocky, it's like he wants to prove that he's not Rocky. So he does that fast talking thing and be like, yeah, Rocky's slow, but I'm quicker. I don't know. I always got that feeling in some of his performances, and especially interviews.
Yeah, I agree with you. What Sly does with Tango and Cash and what he did with Oscar, he's showing audiences to a degree that he's not a slur talker, that he can actually speak. He does that right at that. Look at me, I can talk fast, blah, 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 blah. And just showcasing that I don't just talk like this in films. You're right. It's a bit of a stereotype that he's breaking, and he does break it. He is showcasing it again. He acts again, everyone in this movie acts just fine. Does anyone want to break down generally what the plot is for anyone that actually hasn't seen the film that might be interested in watching the film?
Yeah. So it's basically a tale of two couples, right? So his accountant, Snap's accountant, comes to him saying he wants to marry his daughter. He needs a raise. And oh, by the way, I found a flaw in your accounting system and I've been stealing from you. Turns out that the accountant is not in love with Snaps' daughter. It's a woman who said he's Snaps' daughter. So then that gets the Three's Company aspect of this movie going, because then Snaps goes and has a whole conversation with his daughter about who she wants to marry. She's talking about somebody completely different. So we've already got the mix up there. And then there's another woman who comes to Snaps, right? And says, I told somebody I was your daughter, right? I watched it 2 weeks ago at this point. We were supposed to record earlier.
Yeah, we were supposed to record earlier. What happened? Whose fault was that again? I can't remember.
That was mine. I got stuck at work.
It doesn't matter.
It always
and then
is
she
mine.
turns out to really be his daughter. And
no, that was the mother of the second girl who claimed to be his daughter. That was actually turned out to be his real daughter.
Yeah.
It's very convoluted.
And then there's a suitcase that's got laundry and money in it, and it keeps getting confused.
And jewels. There's 3 suitcases.
Yeah, jewels. There's a payoff that's happening, and the girl keeps getting an Uber driver, and we get that back and forth.
So I got a quick little write up here. So in the film, things get complicated when Anthony discovers that Teresa, the woman he loves, is not Snaps' daughter as claimed. Snaps tricks Anthony into agreeing to marry his actual daughter, Lisa, who is unhappy with the arrangement. However, Lisa falls in love with Dr. Thornton Poole instead. Then meanwhile, the police and a mob rival, Vendetti, are both watching Snap's mansion, suspecting he's meeting with Chicago mobsters. Anthony seeks out Teresa while Snaps reconnects with an old flame, Roxy. Teresa is revealed to be Roxy's daughter, making Snaps her father. And then during a meeting with bankers, Snaps realizes they intend to take advantage of him and decides to return to a life of crime. And in the end, there's a double wedding for his daughters, and Oscar himself makes a memorable appearance. With a joyful double wedding, the movie concludes on a high note. There you go. I got the little...
Now, as much as I love Tim Curry, man, was this just weird...
He was casting. He was probably the biggest miscast. I agree. He's a great actor, great comedic and drama actor. This is a bit of a miscast for him. There might have been some sort of, excuse the pun, some favored curried from a previous film role that he did with Landis. With
it just felt creepy, right?
He's much older. Is he much older than? Yeah,
he might have been miscast, but
he's 20 years older than the character. So the actors are 20 years apart, and it shows in this film because Marissa's 26 in the film in real life, but she looks 21. She looks quite young. She could pass for a 21-year-old, barely 21-year-old, whereas Tim Curry looks every part his age in that film. He looks almost 40. Yeah.
He's still funny. I don't care what you give. You could have that guy read the dictionary and I will laugh.
Great actor.
His facial expressions, he's always on another level. He always goes for it.
Now the actor that played Anthony, the clerk, right, or the guy,
accountant.
His name is Vincent Spano, and he was actually, again, the cast is not the problem. What they bring or how they bring it, everyone's dialed in to their roles. Okay, they're all acting like this is night 5 of a 7-week run, or sorry, like a 7-night run on Broadway. They're all dialed in. They're all giving their full performance. They're all fighting to keep their spot on the Broadway play, right? Vincent Spano, who plays this, I thought, oh boy, he seems familiar, or he seems like I've seen this guy before. And he has a lot of television and film roles, but he just never made it anywhere. He has a lot of roles. He's been in a lot of stuff. This is probably his biggest screen time role. And I thought he probably should have deserved a better time in Hollywood. Am I crazy here? Or?
Did he do stage stuff? Because he has that kind of delivery.
Not looking at his Wikipedia, there's no stage work, just films and TV. What are your guys' thoughts on him? Because I thought he was strong. I thought he's got that face. Yeah, it's just weird that he just never, of all the actors, he just never did much afterwards. As far as prominent face time, he's been a steady worker, which is an okay way to be. I've always said, if you're going to be one of these guys, there's a documentary, I forget what it's called, but it's something like, oh, you're that guy.
I know that face or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually not a bad gig if you think about it.
There's no pressure.
That's right.
You're not carrying a movie. Yeah. It's not your job to open the movie.
That's right. If Mission Impossible film bombs, which the latest one apparently isn't doing as well as they hope financially, I heard it's a good film, but it's just not bringing in the box office. It's not. Vin Rames isn't worried. It's not his film. They're not saying it's a Vin Rames. They always say it's Tom Cruise. They're putting it on his shoulders. Whatever the Indiana Jones films, it's always on Harrison's. So yeah, you're right. Being a character actor or just a working actor, it's not a bad way because you still can go to Disneyland or go shopping but you have a steady income and work on film. I don't think it's a bad way to go. Yeah.
No, that's probably the preferred way to go. You're making a living and you don't get mobbed everywhere you go.
But you get mobbed everywhere you go, don't you?
I also think it depends on where you choose to live. You mentioned Harrison Ford, Ryan, but Harrison Ford lives in Montana.
That's right.
These people that bitch about not being able to go out don't live in LA. Don't live in New York City. Be like Harrison Ford and move to Montana. Nobody in Montana cares who he is. He can go to the local grocery store and not get mobbed because people in Montana don't care. There are people that make a living taking pictures in LA and New York and Miami and Chicago. I don't know. You build this cage for yourself. Deal with it.
Now, John Belushi was originally going to be a part of this film, obviously, before his death.
Wow. So it was in development that long?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was with John Lennon attached to direct. I guess.
Who was he going to play?
I think Snaps.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. He would have joined up with Animal House co-star Reichert and Landis, obviously.
There you go.
Peter Reichert also a highlight of this film. He does that, like you said, Marissa Tomei understood the assignment, so did Peter Riegert. He had that
he was
quick
great.
talking 40s drawl.
Yes.
And didn't he play the councilman in Sopranos that gets beat with the belt? Wasn't that him?
Yeah, he was.
Yes, that's right. He was Assemblyman Ronald Zellman. 6 episodes of The Sopranos.
And he gets beat with the belt. When he does a complete nude scene where he gets completely emasculated by Tony in front of Tony's ex-mistress.
Yeah, he's a great actor. You're right. So him and Tomei were highlights as far as they came with that that kind of talk. They dialed in for sure in the silliness of the
him and Chaz Palminteri had that. Do you remember the old cartoons? There was the little mobster guy and then the big Muggsy. That was Peter Riegert and Chaz Palminteri in this film.
Perfect.
And to a T, that they reminded me of those two guys. Chaz was awesome in this too. He playing the dopey, slow guy.
Yeah. Ultimately, at the end of the day, tighten this movie up. Don't be married to the idea that you have to do a faithful adaptation of this stage play.
Yeah.
Again, screwball comedy, 95 to 100 minutes. That extra 10 minutes does matter. It does. You might say, 10 minutes isn't anything. Think of all the things you can do in 10 minutes and then get back to me. And that's the main problem with this movie is tonally it wasn't 100% consistent. Like Ryan said, it's got those Naked Gun moments. But then also just tighten it up. And it would have been a much better movie. Ryan alluded to it it was the same experience for me. There were so many times during this movie where I checked my watch. And you know what? When I watched Rhinestone, I didn't check my watch. And if that's a barometer of whether a movie's doing its job or not, I'm sorry. I gotta throw the support to Rhinestone on this one.
Yeah, I felt every minute of the hour and 50 or whatever it was. But there was enough sprinkled in there to keep me entertained, to keep me chuckling. I knew the whole bag thing. Every time another black bag came into the scene, I was like, here we go again. But then the next scene shows Chaz Palminteri when Snaps tells him, don't take your eyes off the bag. He puts the bag on the table and starts just staring at it until he gets distracted. And of course, shenanigans ensue. But that moment.
That's what Mulligan or Mulholland put in the script too. Shenanigans ensue. And he let them worry about it.
But that moment with Chaz Palminteri being an idiot, it kept me hooked.
So Jim Mulholland, speaking of him, he actually helped write Bad Boys, by the way. Look at that.
Do you know who was originally supposed to be in Bad Boys?
Who?
And we're talking about the Will Smith Bad Boys, right? Not the Sean Penn Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Okay. No. Bad Boys was originally developed for Dana Carvey and John Lovitz.
What a different movie that would have been.
So if you think about Mulholland's involvement, it was probably when it was a John Lovitz, Dana Carvey movie.
The film's early stages of development, Bruckheimer initially envisioned Dana Carvey and John Lovitz. There you go. And when the film was written for Carvey and Lovitz, the original title was Bad Boys was Bulletproof Hearts.
That's a badass name, actually.
Now, you're probably right. The Jim Mulholland comedy parts were probably what was kept there. You're right. Speaking of Jim Mulholland as well, back to Jim, this guy. So he was 19 when he started writing for Johnny. He was the youngest writer ever to write for Johnny.
That's awesome.
And he's won a Writers Guild Award and has received 20 Emmy nominations in late night comedy category. So he's no slouch in his comedy writings other than Oscar. Yeah.
Did you guys catch the small cameo by Marshall Bell too? Quado himself.
No.
Who's Marshall Bell? Who's Marshall Bell?
He's the guy that played Quado in Total Recall. He's one of those guys. He's been in a ton of, but he was in Twins.
What was his role in Oscar?
He was one of the reporters at the end after when the what's his name? The other mobster got arrested.
Yeah. Yeah, I just watched Total Recall 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I know we did it for with Seco.
The Arnold. Yeah.
Podcast. Did that aired already? Right?
Yeah,
I don't know. Seco's he's gone, right?
He got a new job, so he's.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
but didn't like
that stuff out.
I'm pretty sure I recorded an episode with him that hasn't aired
yet. Running Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's got some stuff in the book, so I don't think the Arnold podcast is retired. Are you still doing it with him, Doug, or is it retired?
Yeah, as far as I know, he said August we were going to pick back up.
Okay.
I recorded an episode for the Mel season 2 as well.
Which movie?
That's possible.
I don't even remember. I know I did Machete Kills with him.
Yeah, that came out, didn't it?
That
one came out.
I swear I did another one. I don't know. It just feels I haven't heard from Seiko in probably 2 months.
I know, it's been fantastic.
You know what you did? You know what you did? You summoned him. You said his name 3 times. He's coming back.
Oh no, I can see it now. Stallone sucks. I hate Stallone. He's such a.
Here comes the ego again. All about Sly.
I know.
Why did we give a Dutch guy that voice?
I don't know. I can't. I always think he's German, anyways. Okay. Well, these are some deep cuts here. So,
I love Seiko. I've had some real fun podcasting with him.
He's a character. Yeah, in fact, he just messaged me during this recording. I swear he knows we're live right now. He just messaged me to say he's stuck in London. I'm okay. Good luck.
I never know what time it is either when I converse with Seiko. Is it the middle of the night there? It's the middle of the night for me. Is it the middle of the day there for him?
All right, boys. What's your hint to that? One last piece of trivia I found was actually fairly interesting. The trivia is the highlight of this episode. There was a fire. Did you hear about the fire? Anyone?
No, I don't know.
Okay, so you're right here. After a long day of filming, a fire broke out and caused extensive damage to the movie set. It destroyed several sets, including the trailers of some of the actors, Tim Curry's, for example. The flames also consumed all the costumes and 21 vintage cars.
Whoa.
Oh, man.
So trailers, costumes, and cars. So this is a huge fire.
Did they ever get down to the bottom of it?
Yes, I'm getting there. So because of the fire, production had to stop for 2 weeks while they worked out to recreate. So they actually had to recreate.
Was it insurance fraud for the cars? Please tell me it was insurance fraud for the cars.
I don't know more than this, but it turned out that the person hired to guard the cars was the one who admitted starting the fire.
Dude, that was insurance for the cars. Whoever rented those cars out was, you know what? I need to get out of this vintage car game. Light them up.
Now, Oscar actually won some was nominated for an Oscar. Speaking of costumes design, it was actually nominated for costumes.
Was it for the score?
No. The score was okay, but that you're right about that 6-minute intro of the scene.
Was it costume design?
Yeah, costume design. Yeah.
And it didn't win, right?
No, it didn't win, but it got nominated for an Oscar. So Oscar was nominated for an Oscar. And also, it was nominated, your drum roll, please. It was nominated for 2. Good old Sly. He was nominated for Worst Actor. Now, come on. The
Razzies have always been low-hanging fruit, and they'll never change. And screw the Razzies.
Yeah, so they nominated Sly again but he didn't receive the award. And John Landis was also nominated for Worst Actor. Now, or Worst Director. He should have received it for The Twilight Zone for being a murderer, but I don't think he did. So.
Talking about the Razzies real quick.
Yeah, please.
I love when people give the Razzies a taste of their own medicine. And I recently saw footage. Paul Verhoeven, great legendary director of Total Recall, also, as we know, directed the fiasco known as Showgirls, and he knew he was going to be nominated for all these Razzies, so he actually showed up at the Razzies. So they had to do all of the categories and be ultra mean about the movie with Paul Verhoeven sitting there. And when he won Worst Director, which is a joke, he went up there and accepted it. And I love that because, you know what? I'm not going to let you guys demean me or the work I do. Tom Green showed up and made his own red carpet for the Razzies. I just love that. And we've talked about the Razzies and what a joke it is and how they've always had it out for Sly, even nominating him for movies that have no business being nominated. And they don't have the balls to ever nominate the true movies that deserve it. Screw them.
Somebody else received their award. It was Sandra Bullock did it too.
Yeah. So there's a more than a handful of examples of people that were, you know what, I'm going to go get my award.
I would get it too, actually. And in fact, it was the same year she was nominated I don't know. Is she an Oscar winner? She won a Razzie and an Oscar the same year. I think she's one.
Wasn't she nominated? If she was ever nominated, it was for The Blind Side.
Yeah, it was Blind Side. Oh, yeah. We'll close on this if you want. This is what Sly had to say about the film. He said, "I made a movie once and called Oscar." And everybody who saw the movie and liked it would never go out and This is Landis talking about Stallone. My apologies. Okay. Landis had this to say. He said, I made a movie once, Oscar, with Sylvester Stallone, and everybody who saw the movie and liked it would never go out and see Stallone. What? Never go and see Stallone.
You're saying they wouldn't normally go see Stallone movies?
I guess. He goes, we did a preview of the movie, and someone wrote on the card, oh yeah, why didn't he take his shirt off and kill anybody? But we had an extraordinary cast. We had Kirk Douglas and a girl who had never been in a movie before, Marissa Tomei. She was so extremely great from the first day. And what had she done before? Practically nothing. Now that's talent. She was unbelievably good. I did have something else here regarding Oscar. I thought I had it for. Oh, this is during the Tulsa King. Sorry. He was speaking with comicbook.com in support of Tulsa King. Stallone says he still loves Oscar in spite of its lukewarm reception. There you go.
It's so weird, the movies that he throws his retroactive support behind. He'll talk about regretting Rhinestone or some other movie, but then he'll throw his support behind Oscar. It's weird.
Probably also refers to his experience with making it. Yeah, some movies, even though the product might have been okay, he probably had a miserable time or issues with somebody behind the scenes.
Comicbook.com asked Stallone whether Oscar's Angelo Snaps Provolone or Tulsa King's Dwight the General Manfredi, which one was the more dangerous character. Stallone said Snaps, of course, with a laugh.
Okay, so he's joking.
Yeah. After comicbook.com's Chris Killian said he loved Oscar, Stallone replied, I guess that's the guy doing the interview, I did too. I guess it was too much of a shocking transition from Rambo to that, but I love doing that kind of drama. This one here leans in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Actually, didn't he reference in the movie that he was responsible for the St. Valentine's Day massacre?
Yeah, he alluded to it.
Yeah, so that would definitely make him more violent and dangerous. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there you go, folks. Stallone dabbling. Here's the thing: we talked about how Stallone should dabble in more mafia stuff. He certainly does with the Tulsa King. Are we getting to season 2? Is that not happening now?
We've got the writer's strike right now.
That being said,
strike was not helping, but there was an announcement that they were doing a season 2, but then Sly
said he's done.
You can't close the book on that the way they closed it.
No,
I don't know if it's a negotiating tactic or
goes to jail.
But you'd think that before they announced the season 2, they would have had a contract in place for him. Or maybe that was just negotiating for the family Stallone to say, hey, I'm not going to do Tulsa King unless you commit to the family Stallone. I don't know.
According to an article from this month, Stallone's former mafia capo Dwight will be in season 2, and much of the cast will remain the same, according to this article. So I don't know if that was just Stallone being Stallone, because he did say something. I'm done. I'm tired. I'm done. But that was it. It was just him.
He also separated from his wife, and then 4 weeks later was, oh, no, we're good. We're doing a reality show.
Speaking of which, we figure out the timeline really quickly here. So during the reality show, there's no indication of his dog that he got, his tattoo removal, or the divorce. Because that all happened during the reality show, before and after and during. So what they did was apparently they refilmed things to ignore that it ever happened. They whitewashed the separation from the reality show. It never happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you actually do the timeline of when Frank Stallone performed at the Hard Rock Cafe, it was Sly went with Frank while he was separated. But they refilmed things to make him and Jennifer still together during that phone call conversation and things like that. So in the reality show, quotation mark, of the family Stallone, there was never a divorce or separation. It's never spoken to. It's never brought up. And his new dog that he had or got is never shown or talked about.
Yeah. Okay.
Gallagher also said, didn't Sly say Tulsa King involved spending too much time away from family?
But yeah, they're thinking about one of those things was they're not going to film in Oklahoma again. They're going to film closer. That was one of the negotiations. Yeah.
It's weird. Can't you film that anywhere and then do 2 weeks of location shooting in Oklahoma where you get that big circle that they always show? You just get the landmarks
stuff.
Yeah, Sopranos filmed in a studio in Queens. Right. And then every once in a while, they'd go to Montclair or wherever in Nutley and shoot outside the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You don't have to film in Oklahoma. You're right.
Yeah. It's 2023.
So we either get season 2 of The Tulsa King or Cliffhanger 2. Which one will come out first? Okay.
Depends on when the writers come back to work.
That's right. Sly might die before that happens. Okay. That's it,
there
guys.
we have it.
So there you go. We got already from Craig. He's never going to see this film again unless he does another film review of this. Craig, you might. Are you done? Are you retired? Are you retiring? Talking about this film?
I'm retiring, Oscar. Yes. Is there a contract I can sign saying I'll never podcast about this movie again?
Oh crap! I forgot to hit record. All right.
Then Alistair will be the only one that ever hears this.
Yeah, no kidding. Doug, what about you?
It had its moments. It had its moments. Sly was not the shining star in this, although I felt his game was elevated due to the people around him, and I didn't hate it. There are other films of his that I would put to rest long before this one. Who knows?
Sorry.
But what would I rather?
I was gonna say, would you rather watch Oscar or Stop or My Mom Will Shoot?
Oscar.
Okay, how about Oscar or Rhinestone?
Oscar. I hate her.
Wow. Okay, how about Rhinestone or Stop or My Mom Will Shoot?
Oh man, that's a good one. Got to go Rhinestone. Stop or My Mom Will Shoot was probably the worst piece of garbage I ever watched. There we go.
I will watch Stop or My Mom Will Shoot before I watch Oscar again.
Wow.
Because it's so ridiculous and stupid. I don't know how to explain it. This tries to be something. Look, both films try to be something or not, but this one, it doesn't fail miserably. It fails oddly quietly, and it's almost not even enough to make fun of it because it looks good. Everyone's acting good. It's filmed and edited nicely. Everyone brings their A game, but something falls short. And I can't quite put my finger on why that is. I don't, other than just maybe a tighter script.
It's that 10 minutes, Ryan, that I was talking about. I'm telling you.
Yeah. All right.
All
right, guys. I don't know. What's our next film, by the way? Any teases? What do we have left here? Anyone?
Daylight. Let's officially do Daylight.
No, we did Daylight.
We did it with Gunda.
No, I'm not doing that. Come on, guys. No, that was done for the network. That was done for the network. That wasn't a Slycast. That was a network one. That was an actual podcast for the one. It's just.
Isn't there a poker movie, Shade?
Oh, yeah, Shade. Yeah.
Shade is one that I put on a poll a couple times. We've done. Did we end up doing ICU?
Yes. Okay.
We did.
Very forgettable.
Yeah, goodness. Shade, I have the DVD. I just looked at the DVD the other day.
Wow.
So I know I'm prepared to watch that. I love Shade. Shade's great. It's got one of the funniest young Stallone actors. I always love when they try and cast a young version of Sly, and we'll talk about it if we end up doing that movie, how great the Sly and Shade is. I don't know. I don't know what else is left.
It's just around the corner, something to consider. No,
Party Kitty and Studs.
No, Party Kitty. We already said Party Kitty and Studs will be the final episode. Other than whatever happens to get released new. But speaking of new films, Expendables Part 4 is actually coming out in September. That could very well should be our next one. That's next month.
Okay.
That means I have to go to the movies, which I'm not sure I'll be able to do.
No, you can't. Come on, for the show. Let's do it. Let's get on top of it. We've done the first 3 Expendables. This will be the 4th one. I think people would want us to hear.
It's got an R rating. It's back to basics.
Yeah, that means they just went in and they just turned on the blood effect.
Craig, do you need us to send you finance? Do you need money for the ticket?
It's not that. It's just I don't know, man.
Okay, so our next one will be Expendables Part 4.
When in September does it come out?
The month of at some point. I'm not sure.
All right, it's August 5th as we record this.
Yes.
Well, Expendables 4 or Shade.
All right.
Release date September 22nd. So it's at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Maybe make that October.
Yeah. So maybe we could squeeze in one more before. But if we're going to do that, because I know everyone's very busy.
Well, it all depends on when you record that, when you release this.
I know. Sooner than later. I shouldn't take too long. This shouldn't be too hard of an edit. It can almost go out as is. I think it went without a hitch almost to a degree.
Yeah. I don't know. If you want to wait for Expendables, I'll go see it opening weekend. I really, in all honesty, call me a shitty fan. I haven't thought about Expendables 4, man. I watched the trailer. I forgot it the minute it was over. Mm-hmm. I've seen the poster. I've seen Sly's name creep up closer to the top.
Oh,
and I saw your post about the CGI blood. I don't know. It's hard for me to get excited about an Expendables movie.
I didn't say you had to be excited. I just said you had to watch it.
No, but I should be. That's the thing. I should be excited for an Expendables movie, and I'm not.
No, you're right. What's funny, I forgot Part 4 was coming out too. I've had a busy summer moving from across country, but I actually forgot. Oh yeah, that's coming out this September, Part 4. I've been thinking about Tulsa King season 2 more than I have about Expendables 4. Yeah. All right. So it's either going to be Shade or Expendables 4, but if it's Shade, it'll be Expendables 4 afterwards. Put it that way. So either way, we're going to do a review. The network wants to hear it. All right, folks. Doug, are you give us more Rocky 3-minute stuff?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I actually have an episode. Well, I got a couple, but I was going to release one this weekend. Coming at you.
All right. And Craig, do you have any guest spots? I know you did a recent one on the Retromade podcast.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun talking a movie that a lot of people don't think know about.
I didn't know about that movie till your episode. Do you want to say what it was?
Yeah, on this season of Retromade, Katie's focusing on Patrick Swayze and Kurt Russell. And she asked me, hey, do you want to do a movie featuring either of those guys? I'll do either used cars or the best of times. Wow. And it looked like the best of times was easier to find for people to actually go and watch it. Right. So we did the best of times, and I'm not a fan of the best of times. See you later.
Oh yeah, Doug just left the chat. Okay,
he's gone. But either way, yeah, Retromade. If you search in your podcatcher Retromade, quite a few of us have been on there. You did an episode. You did Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah,
which fun. I yelled at my headphones a couple times listening.
Thank you.
I know Sean from I Must Break This podcast did an episode.
Yeah, there's been some great guest spots on there. She's doing great. We love Katie, and I'm so happy and proud of her that she's branched out and does her own thing now.
You know what I really dig is the first 30 minutes was just talking about what my movie was 1986 or 87.
Right.
And the first 30 minutes, we just talked about pop culture in 1987, which was really cool and lots of fun. And I know that's the format of the show. Listening to the Big Trouble in Little China episode, I got to hear your sort of experiences with pop culture from the year that came out. It came out the same year.
Oh, that's crazy. Now, do you have any other guest spots or anything coming on the horizon that you've been a part of? Or
I may or may not have an episode with Seco coming out.
That's right. He's going to release it eventually. He has been busy with work. Okay, so Doug is gone. He left by accident, so I'm sure he would have given his wish. Thanks, everyone. Thank you for listening. Oscar could have been funnier, should have been funnier, looked good. Everyone came and did. It was an odd movie where everyone did their part except for the editor, maybe director. So maybe next time don't get a murderer to direct your film. Okay, with that, we'll see you on the next one.
All right, take care.
All right, talk to you later, Craig.
All right, bye-bye, man.